What a miserable day, I thought as I dragged myself through the front door, exhaustion clinging to me like a second skin. As if the relentless hot flashes weren't enough, today had delivered another bitter blow. I didn't get the promotion I had been expecting. Assistant manager should have been mine. I had the experience, the skills, the dedication. But instead it went to Betty Bowman. Or as the office secretly called her, Betty Breasts. Honestly, if she unbuttoned her blouse any further, she'd be showing her belly button. It amazed me that she had never been sent home and told to wear something more appropriate. But of course, that never happened. The women in the office whispered about her behind her back, and now, she was going to be our boss. The horror of it settled in my stomach like a heavy stone. I had 5 more years of experience than her, 5 years of proving myself. But that didn't seem to matter when James Brooks, our manager, couldn't tear his gaze away from her cleavage long enough to make a rational decision. It stung more than I wanted to admit. I had foolishly thought that our past, our affair, might have mattered, that maybe it would count for something. But apparently not. Our affair. The words felt foreign now, a foolish mistake from another lifetime. And yet, I couldn't deny it had been fun at the time. I had been so damn frustrated, so lonely, and James, he had noticed me. Henry, my husband, was always working, too hard, too much, pushing himself for a promotion that eventually came. But by the time he had succeeded, he had nothing left for me. He was always exhausted, and I was just as drained. Our love life had become routine, an obligation rather than a pleasure. Sex with Henry had turned into something formal, mechanical, as if we were checking a box rather than sharing a moment. It hadn't always been that way. When we were younger, it had been passionate, thrilling. But after Adrian was born, everything changed. Our bedroom was right next to hers, and the fear of her hearing us silenced me. Before the kids, I wasn't much of a talker in bed. But after them, I became completely silent. Maybe Henry mistook my quietness for disinterest. Maybe that was why he stopped trying. James, on the other hand, was attentive. He flirted. He made me feel desirable again. That morning when he caught me in a moment of frustration and weakness, I let go of my reservations. And just like that, I became someone I never thought I would be. That first time in the supply closet was thrilling, reckless, and forbidden. It was the most excitement I had felt in years. And when he arranged for a motel room afterward, I let loose in a way I never could at home. With James, I wasn't just a wife or a mother. I was a woman again, wanted, craved. Poor Henry never suspected a thing. I made sure of that. I never denied him affection, never let our routine slip. But in those stolen moments with James, I felt alive. It lasted 10 months, 10 months of sneaking around, of secret touches in the hallway, of wild nights behind closed doors. Then it ended just as suddenly as it began. James's wife found out he was having an affair. She never learned who it was with, thank God. But she took him back under the condition that he cut things off. And so it was over. It was strange in a way, like being dumped, even though I had always known it couldn't last. And yet after James there was Michael. But Michael was just a one-night stand, a brief flicker of interest that quickly faded. He was forgettable, uninspiring, and not worth the risk of repeating. Then came the real punishment, my missed period. For a brief, terrifying moment, I thought my carelessness had caught up with me. But no, it wasn't pregnancy. It was something else entirely. Menopause. At 46, it came too soon, a cruel joke played by fate. The hot flashes, the mood swings, the unpredictable waves of desire followed by weeks of complete indifference. It was hell. One moment, I was insatiable, and the next, I wanted nothing at all. And then eventually, I just stopped wanting sex altogether. That at least had put an end to my infidelity. Henry was a saint. He never resented me for my dwindling desire, never berated me for the way my body had betrayed me. And now, 7 years later, I had been the picture of a good, faithful wife. Though of course, it was easy to be faithful when temptation no longer whispered in my ear. I still made an effort. Once a week, I let Henry have me, though my enthusiasm was forced. Did he notice? If he did, he never said a word. He was older now too, but unlike me, his appetite hadn't vanished. And yet, the real punishment wasn't the loss of my desire. It was the fact that James and I still worked together. Every single day, seeing his face, 5 days a week, 48 weeks a year, was a constant reminder of what I had done. Over time, the sting faded into a dull annoyance, but it never truly disappeared. He had moved on, of course, probably found new women to chase, new conquests to claim, but at work at least he was careful. And now Betty Breasts was the new assistant manager. Another slap in the face. I was still seething when I stepped into the house, but the sight before me stopped me cold. Henry stood in the entryway freshly shaven, dressed in his best suit. The scent of cologne, the cologne I had given him for our anniversary, lingered in the air between us. Henry. My voice wavered. I didn't realize we had plans tonight. We don't, he said simply. Confusion prickled at my skin. Then why are you dressed like that? I'm going out, he replied. I frowned. Out? Where? With who? He didn't blink. With Janet Carson. The words hit me like a slap. Janet Carson. His former assistant. I tried to laugh, to shake it off as a joke, but the way he looked at me, calm, unreadable, told me it wasn't. The Starlight Club, he added. My stomach twisted. The Starlight Club. The most elegant restaurant in town. A place we had never gone to together. Henry, we're married. I choked out, as if the words alone could change reality. His lips curved into a humorless smile. Well, that didn't seem to matter to you when you went there with James Brooks 10 years ago. The room tilted. My breath caught in my throat. He knew. All this time he had known. I stood there frozen, the weight of Henry's words crashing over me like a tidal wave. An affair? He thought I had an affair. For a moment, all I could do was blink, my mind scrambling for clarity. What? What are you saying? My voice was barely a whisper, laced with disbelief. His expression was unreadable, but his words were sharp, cutting straight through me. Don't play dumb, Miranda. You think I didn't know? You think I didn't notice the whispered phone calls that went dead the moment I walked into the room? Or the way James smirked at me during your office parties, as if he knew something I didn't? I opened my mouth to protest, but Henry wasn't finished. It took everything in me not to knock that bastard's teeth out when he pulled you close during slow dances. His hands lingering just a little too long on your body. And you never pulled away. You never once took his hand off your ass. His voice was steady, controlled, but his eyes burned with something deeper. Something that had been bottled up for years. If he didn't see me watching, then I suppose you two must have had a real good laugh about it afterward. He let out a humorless chuckle. Tell me, Miranda, did you ever wonder why I never kissed you on those nights when you forgot to brush your teeth? A sickening realization settled in my stomach. Henry, why didn't you ever say anything? Why didn't you stop me? His jaw clenched. To what end? You would have just denied it. Or worse, maybe you would have laughed in my face and dared me to do something about it. No, I whispered, shaking my head. I would never have laughed at you, Henry. Never. His eyes narrowed. Wouldn't you? His voice dropped to a dangerous softness. Isn't that exactly what you told Sally Porter? My breath caught in my throat. Oh my God. Sally. I had said those words to her. She had suspected me of having an affair. And in my desperation to justify myself, I had blurted it out. But how the hell had she told Henry? Why would she do that? Henry didn't wait for me to process it. Tell me, Miranda, what could I have done to stop you? If you didn't want to stop yourself. His voice was calm, but it was the kind of calm that came after years of quiet resentment, after too much pain had built up to be contained any longer. I swallowed hard. Then why didn't you divorce me? The words felt foreign leaving my lips, as if I hadn't considered the possibility before. Henry's mouth curled into a bitter smile. Divorce you? He let out a short, dry laugh. And what? Lose our house. Lose our children. Split everything we built together, just so I could see my kids every other weekend, and maybe get a few weeks with them in the summer. His voice hardened. I wasn't going to let your betrayal cost me my family. Tears blurred my vision, spilling down my cheeks before I could stop them. Then why now? I choked out. Why are you doing this now? It's been years, Henry. I haven't. I've been betrayed ever since, Miranda. He cut in, his voice quiet but firm. For 10 years I have lived with it. And now our children are grown. They're no longer here to be affected by this. Which means that if we do divorce, There's no house to fight over. No custody battles. No real obstacles at all. My breath hitched. Divorce? My entire body trembled. I don't want a divorce. He shrugged, his indifference slicing through me deeper than if he had screamed. Then don't. It makes no difference to me. Then why? Why are you throwing this in my face now? His smile was cold. Revenge. The word landed like a slap. You cheated on me, Miranda, he said, voice unwavering. Because you couldn't do your part. Your words, not mine. He took a slow step forward. You never told me. Never gave me a chance to fix what was broken. You just decided on your own that it was too late. His eyes darkened. And I suppose you've noticed, haven't you? That since menopause, you haven't exactly been holding up your end either. I shook my head frantically. It's not like that, Henry. I love you. I enjoy making love to you. I never saw it as just a duty. Easy for you to say now, he mused. But tell me, Miranda. Do you remember when I tried to fix things between us? When I suggested new things, tried to spice things up? I swallowed hard. I did remember. He gave a slow nod, as if reading my thoughts. Do you remember what you said to me then? I could barely speak. I don't. His voice dropped to a whisper. Let me refresh your memory. I squeezed my eyes shut, but his words still came. That's disgusting. What kind of woman do you take me for? The words I had thrown at him all those years ago came back to haunt me, and I nearly doubled over from the weight of them. And yet, Henry murmured, you weren't that kind of woman with me. Just with James. He exhaled, shaking his head. But it doesn't matter anymore. You set the example, Miranda. Now I intend to follow it. I gasped. What? You had your fun satisfying your desires elsewhere, he said. Now I plan to do the same. He turned toward the door. You have a choice. You can take the option I declined all those years ago and file for divorce. I won't stop you. He reached for something on the sideboard. I hadn't noticed them before, but now I saw the bouquet of flowers. A fresh, beautiful arrangement. Not for me. Now if you'll excuse me, he said, picking them up. Janet is waiting for me. And I don't intend to be late. With that, he walked out the door, closing it quietly behind him. My legs gave out, and I sank to the floor. My body trembled as I tried to process everything. But one thought screamed above all the others. He knew. He knew all along. For 10 years, I had told myself I had gotten away with it. That Henry had been clueless, oblivious. And yet all this time he had known. He had watched. And it had been festering inside him, eating away at him, until there was nothing left of the man I had married. I thought I had buried my past. But now my past was coming back to bury me. And yet, Henry hadn't left me completely. Not yet. If he comes home tonight, I have a chance. If he comes home tomorrow morning, I still have a chance. But if he doesn't, I had to act fast. I had to fight for him, even if it meant fighting against myself.